Tanse, I'm Chris Nachkite. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. People from across the country are breathing a small sigh of relief after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced a 30-day pause for U.S. tariffs against Canada. However, one trade expert says Canada is not out of the woods yet and won't be until Trump's term is up.
What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state.
It's not over until it's over, and in this case, with 250 more weeks to go, it's not going to be over until that time passes.
While an economic war with our largest trading partner loomed large at the start of the week, a 30-day reprieve on tariffs has been reached, paving the way for Canada appointing a new fentanyl czar, heightened border security, and a joint strike force on organized crime, trafficking, and money laundering. Meanwhile, in Ontario, a lengthy act of reconciliation is taking another step this week following a historic vote at Elliot City Council. Last week's vote was unanimous in approving the sale of the Ministry on National Resources land on Highway 108 in Elliot Lake to go to the Serpent River First Nation. The process began under the previous council, calling it a great first step. The mayor says it's evidence of the growing partnership between the two communities.
There's going to be a lot of information that's going to be passed along as we go through this process. And again, it's not overnight. These things take time, and as we learn, sometimes it takes a little more time than what we expect. But exciting moment. The
land is being transferred to a holding company, which will in turn process the transfer over to the First Nation. A new report in Ontario has just been released that looks into the economic contributions of Indigenous peoples and businesses in the Thunder Bay area. It found the total impact of Indigenous economic output in 2020 was $1.55 billion. The Indigenous economic impact analysis of Thunder Bay found the contributions were impressive, but points out more can be done to further promote Indigenous prosperity. The study also hoped that highlighting the economic contributions of Indigenous peoples would challenge stereotypes against Indigenous people. Public administration was the sector with the largest Indigenous impact. More than a dozen First Nations and Métis organizations have offices in the city. Education services was another sector highlighted, with more than 1,000 Indigenous students attending Lakehead University alone. A community wellness summit is looking at ways to tackle homelessness and substance use that's been hurting Indigenous communities. Last Friday, a clinical psychologist addressed some concerns surrounding homelessness among First Nations people. CTV's Eric Tashner has more from Nipissing First Nation in Northern Ontario.
We have so many homeless.
Peter Bocage's son fell into drug addiction. He's now on the streets.
Within a year and a half, that's how fast it happened. Wow. So I'm running around all over the place trying to help him.
His story is not unique. According to Statistics Canada, Indigenous households are almost 3 times as likely to have experienced some form of homelessness compared with the total population.
Are any of us okay with knowing that somebody might be living at the edge of the water by themselves alone, trying to find food?
Restoul, a clinical psychologist, says Indigenous youth are becoming homeless at a younger age. She adds that Indigenous people who are homeless face less severe mental health challenges, but more severe substance abuse. Key causes for Indigenous homelessness include colonization, intergenerational trauma, and an overrepresentation in child welfare and in the justice system. Restoul notes housing services on the First Nation is limited.
We're underfunded in housing, we're underfunded in education, we're underfunded in health, and we're underfunded in social services. And all of those forms of underfunding lead to a lack of access to resources.
The First Nation Council wanted to hold this 2-day summit to strategize and come up with new ideas to tackle chronic homelessness.
While we do have a lot of services and we do take care of a lot of members, not everyone recognizes or realizes the work that we do.
Indigenous homelessness runs much deeper than just putting a roof over a head. Experts say it can be spiritual or relational when someone loses connection with family bonds or cultural traditions.
Our children, grown children, adult children, are sleeping house to house on couches.
Some ideas floated include targeting youth mental wellness and investing in a peer support system for people who have lived on the streets. Eric Tashner, CTV News, Nipissing First Nation.
Staying in Ontario, a first-of-its-kind fire prevention program for Indigenous communities was launched in the city of Orillia last week. CTV's Mike Lang brings us the story.
The Orillia Fire Department is leading the charge in teaching fire prevention to Cree fire officials.
We thought our expertise that our fire prevention officers have would be beneficial to help teach our mentee.
An initiative that began with FPO John Sunnypass making the 900-kilometer trip down from West Wanepe, Quebec.
It's been quite the trip. It's been learning everything under the umbrella of fire prevention, and it's been great.
He gets to introduce to paperwork, stuff they haven't seen, introducing bylaws, how they can make laws that people can enforce. It's amazing to watch him learn and what he can take back to his community to make a safer community.
Sunnypass, one of 10 Cree Nation members who will receive mentorship from 11 Southern Ontario fire departments. The first-of-its-kind program created in partnership between the 11 fire departments, Emergency Management Group, Waswanick Consulting, and the Grand Council of the Crees.
This partnership will empower Indigenous fire services by providing them knowledge, mentorship, needed to strengthen their fire prevention programs.
According to the Grand Council of the Crees, lit smoking materials, youth playing with lighters, combustibles near heating sources, kitchen and electrical flames are the most common causes of residential fires. Sunnypass calling for greater fire prevention measures around wood-burning fireplaces and stoves.
I think that's something that we can look into in the future, to pass some laws or pass some legislation to get that passed to further protect our community.
Each FPO mentee will meet with their FPO mentor for 1 month before the end of the year. Fire officials say they hope the program will run again next year and that it will allow them to strengthen their relationships with other fire departments across the nation. Mike Lang, CTV News, Orillia.
Sturgeon Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan, just northwest of Prince Albert, is advocating for the protection of a pre-contact settlement dating back 11,000 years. After an archaeologist identified the site, Sturgeon Lake is now focusing on preserving the findings. The site was named Asowananik, which means a place of crossing in Nehiwewin. It's located 5 kilometers north of Prince Albert along the North Saskatchewan River. The site was a long-term settlement evidenced by stone tools, fire pits, and materials used in tool making. Items at the site also show Indigenous hunters strategically harvested bison, including the extinct bison antiquus, which weighed up to 2,000 kilograms. The Asowananik Council is a group of elders and community members has been set up to work with archaeologists to preserve the site and seek funding for ongoing research, education, tourism, and community engagement. An inquest into the death of an inmate at the Thunder Bay Correctional Center is set to begin later this month. A jury is expected to make recommendations aimed at preventing further deaths. On June 4th, 2012, Sherman Kirby Cusis from the Niskandaga First Nation died at the Thunder Bay Hospital following an altercation with another inmate. According to authorities, Cusis was stabbed in the neck by Adam Capay. Cusis died just days before he was to be released from jail. Capay, who was 19 at the time, was charged with first-degree murder. However, the charge was stayed after Capay spent more than 4 years in solitary confinement. The inquest will begin on February 24th and is expected to last 15 days with 19 witnesses. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, you can go to www.aptnnews.ca. And you can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. When we come back, we'll tell you about 2 universities who are looking to indigenize its next round of students. those stories when we return. Welcome back. A course covering medical colonialism just launched at McGill University in Montreal. As APTN Savannah Craig reports, the course teaches students about systemic anti-Indigenous racism in Canada's healthcare system.
How you do migrant justice while also acknowledging and being in solidarity with Indigenous sovereignty.
Students are listening intently to just one example of medical colonialism.
These are tough questions, but they're important questions to grapple with.
They're participating in a course that's the first of its kind at both McGill University and in Quebec.
The kind of working definition that I propose for medical colonialism is basically a culture or ideology rooted in anti-Indigenous systemic racism that uses medical practices or policies to establish, maintain, or advance a genocidal colonial project.
Samir Shaheen Hussein is the instructor of this course. He works as a pediatric emergency physician and wants to take action to prevent medical colonialism.
If you're walking around Montreal, you'll see, for example, Inuit folks who are from Nunavik but who are here. Like, that's forced migration, right?
In 2020, Shaheen Hussein published a book that looks at forced displacement endured by Indigenous children in Canada's medical system.
In many cases, they're not coming because they wanted to come. They're coming because there are all kinds of issues in terms of political, social, economic forces that resulted in them migrating here.
The course is called Confronting Medical Colonialism. It focuses on systemic racism in Canada's healthcare system. For example, students will learn about Joyce Echaquan and the principal named after her. Echaquan live-streamed racist treatment she received from nurses in a hospital in Joliet, Quebec, hours before her death. Jennifer Petitquet-Dufresne is executive director of the Joyce's principal office.
Le principe de Joyce, dans le fond, il vise à garantir aux personnes autochtones un droit d'accès équitable à tous les services de santé et services sociaux, de les recevoir en fait sans aucune discrimination afin de pouvoir jouir du meilleur état de santé possible, que ce soit physique, mental, émotionnel et spirituel.
With the provincial government denying the existence of institutional racism in Quebec, Petitquet-Dufresne says a course like this will end medical colonialism.
Le fait de pouvoir voir comment ce colonialisme médical-là a impacté la santé des personnes autochtones, ça va permettre aussi aux intervenants de se voir aller puis d'entamer ce processus de réflexion-là sur est-ce que je suis en train de le reproduire puis comment je peux faire pour ne pas le reproduire.
The development and carrying out of the course has been a collaboration between Indigenous scholars, healthcare workers, and activists, including graduate student and research coordinator Sydney Leggett.
I kind of reviewed some of the materials he was developing in the course outline and just helped with some general direction based off both lessons learned through the course and just experiences as both a student in the department and as an Indigenous person existing in the space.
Indigenous perspectives have been included in the development of the course, and guest lecturers have been invited each week to speak.
We know nursing has played a huge part in historical and ongoing harms, from Indian hospitals to the videos you saw with Joyce Echaquan.
José Lavallee is the director of the Office of Social Accountability in Nursing.
So I just wanted to maybe just touch back into cultural safety.
She came to the class to discuss the importance of cultural safety in healthcare.
So we have a variety of students in these spaces having these conversations with different educational backgrounds, and they're going to take this information into their educational spaces where they are, and also into their careers moving forward.
Shaheen Hussein says his goal is to not only identify medical colonialism, but to provide equal access to healthcare for all Indigenous people in Canada.
I think one of our responsibilities, at least for me as a health worker, to make sure that what Joyce went through does not happen ever again.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
Now to Taiwan Indigenous news. The East Coast National Scenic Area Administration unveiled an art installation, Battling Waves, in January, hoping to attract more visitors to experience the stories of Changong Township and appreciate the richness of Taiwan's marine culture.
To raise awareness of sustainable fishing resources and highlight the rich marine culture of Chengong Township, the East Coast National Scenic Area Administration unveiled an art installation, Battling Waves, on January 1st, which features a dramatic depiction of the struggle between fishermen and the ocean.
长官们，请用剪。现场的所有好朋友，请热情的掌声加尖叫声！
我觉得真的出海去，然后在那种海洋上面，然后经有东北季风这样11节这样的大浪这样子，然后站在那标旗台上面，其实那种感觉是非常非常的，老实说是非常的危险，然后非常的惊险。所以我觉得有这样子的一个设置，真的可以让大家去体验到这个渔民的不容易。
To enrich the event, a seasoned captain shared his insights, giving participants a deeper understanding of the traditional fishing technique.
我们要注意，像我们在航行的时候发现气，你标手船长早就要准备说，等一下看到气你要怎么处理，要包围。比方说前面左边是太阳，你要包在没有太阳这一边，你才可以看到它的颜色，追逐它的颜色，这样才可以标到旗。
Captain Zhang said that Taiwan now only has 11 active swordfish harpoon boats. 3 of them are owned by indigenous peoples. Captain Ding Shi, who has won the first place awards in the East Coast Swordfish Season competition, shared his experiences of harpooning swordfish.
都没人一出去带好诶，当诶古了后要站得稳，安诺这个饭啊，其实呢，都没人一出去带好，嘛得饭好诶，嘛别得个多个诶，伊拉个迷你房诶，你了不好诶，都啦，卡做米干那附近，还得来个比卡几个名，伊得来伊搞我哩，当诶古了哩得啦，抓卡平平古了哩得啦，嘛有来个附近你了啥都啦，卡当诶努力啦。
The launch of Battling Waves marks a significant milestone in integrating culture and education along the East Coast. The administration hopes it will attract more visitors to experience the stories of the land, appreciate the richness and spirit of marine culture, and bring new vitality to the Taiwan coastline.
One of the most recognizable activists in Canada is our guest tonight on Face to Face with Dennis Ward. Ellen Gabriel was thrust into the national stage in the summer of 1990 during Canada's violent siege of Kanesatake and Kahnawake when she acted as spokesperson for her community. Tonight on the show, she reflects back as the 35th anniversary of the Oka crisis nears, including on the role of the media.
You know, the media was looking to sensationalize anything that they could, whether it was divisions, whether it was the weapons, and they helped to dehumanize both communities in our right to self-defense and a right to self-determination. So the media was kind of like a double-edged sword. We needed the media to show the people what was going on, but also the media played the government's propaganda issue of criminalization of the people who stood up for the land, criminalization of the warrior society, criminalization of Mohawks in general.
Weather in one of our newest segments is up next. We'll be right back. Starting on the east, Charlottetown -3, Halifax sunny and 0. The Grand River -13, Nain -21. St. Jovite -5, Quebec City -5. -1 in Ottawa and Sun, Peterborough 0. Thunder Bay -10, Wawa -6. Puckatawagan -20, Churchill -23. Sun in Princess Harbour at -19, Gimli -18. -23 in Yorkton, Saskatoon -25. -22 in Buffalo Narrows. Orange, same temperature. Oh, it just went up, -29. -20 in Fort Chipewyan, Fort McMurray, partly cloudy, -22. Calgary, -21. Edmonton, -22. -19 in Quesnel, Bella Coola, -9. Sand Spit 0, Smithers, -14. Old Crow, -12. Rock River, -13. minus 17 in Fort Simpson, Wrigley, minus 17. Fort McPherson, minus 8, Colville Lake, minus 8. Chesterfield, minus 24, Whale Cove, minus 21. And minus 28 in Igloolik, Arctic Bay, minus 29. Today marks the second day of Mother Tongue Teachings with T.R. Wheatley. It's I Love to Read month, so our goal here at APTN is to take you to the root of Indigenous languages. A different knowledge carrier will share a phrase of the day. Here's Frank Bolio, an Anishinaabe speaker that works with Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Centre in language retention. He's experimenting with blending old words to create new ones.
Hello, bonjour. Ni Nandek, Frank Bolio, and Jawi Kwetonga. Hello, my name is Frank Bolio from Sandy Ojibway Nation, and the word I'd like to share with you today is fax machine. There are 13 words. A machine that writes through a phone line that reaches the other part of the world by paper, and then they send the paper back through via line and shows up here. Targeting those little ones so they can build up their vocabulary, So the root word. I choose that word so the retention of our language is more visible, and every vowel in our Ojibway language has a meaning to it. In English, we would have to reintroduce that in Ojibway. Meaning the fax machine that you feed the information through a paper and it comes back that way. Nyap meaning comes back in a paper form. So it makes a lot of sense to the young reader and the older reader and the instructor. So us here, that's what we do here too. We also have a lot of involvement in intercooperating with other communities to get their language back. We're helping our communities bring them back to life.
Say that word 10 times. Hole. Thanks for that, Frank. You can go to our website at aptnnews.ca/our stories to check out T.R. Wheatley's Mother Tongue Teaching Series. A new phrase of the day will be uploaded each weekday for February. And that's your new newscast for this Tuesday, February 4th. Dennis Ward is back for your evening newscast. Make sure to join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi, miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.